During the final week of the 1982 NFL season, one NBC affiliate in Detroit, quite simply, forgot to show a game. You can learn more about that debacle by clicking the card in the upper right corner. Now, are any of the TV decisions that bad heading into this week? No. But there are some pretty stupid decisions that the networks have made so far. Welcome everybody to JG9 News, where we talk all things NFL all the time. I'm Jaguar9 representing the 904 from the 602, and today we are talking about the Week 18 television schedule. 506 Sports has just released the TV maps showing where all these games are going to be shown on television, and we're going to take a dive into that. I will leave a link to 506 Sports in the description if you want to see the maps for yourself. He's a friend of the channel. He's following me on Twitter. I've used that website for years and years. I love looking at TV maps. And there are some things with these maps that do not make a lot of sense. And that's what I want to dive into today. Now, for those who don't know, Week 18 is a lot like Week 1. It is very different in the sense that both networks get the doubleheaders. So no matter where you are in the country, you get 4 games. You get a CBS early game, a CBS late game, a Fox early game, and a Fox late game. And for the most part, these assignments make sense. Obviously, games that have meaning in certain markets will be shown. Local teams are shown in the local markets. But there's 2 games in particular that don't make any sense to me in terms of why they're airing in that market, and I want to dive into both of those today. So, number 1, Baltimore and Southern Delaware, they're getting the Browns-Bengals game on CBS at 1 o'clock instead of getting Jaguars-Titans or Falcons-Panthers. This, to me, makes no sense. Browns-Bengals means absolutely nothing. The Bengals are mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. They have nothing to play for. The Browns are locked into the number 5 seed. They have nothing to play for. I thought for sure when the schedule was announced for Week 18 that the Browns-Bengals game would be shown in Ohio, it'd be shown in the surrounding markets, and that's it. There was no reason, none whatsoever, for a meaningless game, a game that means absolutely nothing, to be shown in a non-local market. It makes zero sense. If I'm a fan in Baltimore or Southern Delaware, I want to see a game that has playoff implications. I want to see Jaguars-Titans. Who knows how many starters the Browns are even going to play? They've got the number 5 seed locked up. The Bengals have nothing to play for. The game is meaningless. Jaguars-Titans, Falcons-Saints, those games have meaning. Those games have meaning. You're not going to show one of those in a non-local market? I don't think that makes a whole lot of sense to me. And number 2, the big one for me, Green Bay. I don't know what Green Bay is doing. So Green Bay at 4:25 on CBS, they have the Packers-Bears game. No surprise there. Obviously, Green Bay has to get the Packers since they're the local team. But it's the Fox game that doesn't make a lot of sense. Because at 4:25 on Fox, in Green Bay, they have the game between the Dallas Cowboys and the Washington Commanders. Now, obviously, that game is a big game. If the Cowboys win that game, they get control of the NFC East. But what does that game mean for the Packers in terms of their playoff picture? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. The Packers, they're not relying on the Cowboys or the Commanders to make it into the playoffs. Obviously, the Commanders have nothing to play for. The Cowboys, they're fighting for the division title. They can't even be anywhere near the seeding that the Packers have. Now, if you look at the Packers' playoff scenarios, a lot of them revolve around the Seahawks losing. If the Packers don't win their game against Chicago, they need to rely on a Seahawks loss. You look at the playoff scenarios for the Packers, one of them involves a Minnesota loss plus a Seattle loss, plus a Tampa Bay loss, or a Minnesota loss plus a Seattle loss plus a New Orleans loss. And in the rare scenario where Green Bay ties, they need a Seattle loss or tie to go along with that. So if I'm a Packers fan, I care way more about what the Seahawks are doing than what the Cowboys are doing. I know that Cowboys-Packers could potentially be your wild card round game. Maybe you want to see if the Cowboys can win the division, if you're going to play the Cowboys. But still, I need to get into the playoffs first. If I'm a Packers fan, I'm worried about getting into the playoffs. And what am I doing if the Packers are on commercial break? I'm flipping over to Fox to look at the other game to see, okay, what are the Seahawks doing? Because if the Seahawks win and the Packers don't win, guess what? You're not making the playoffs. You're not making the playoffs. You need the Seahawks to lose. You care about the Seahawks. You don't care about the Cowboys game. I don't know why in Green Bay they're getting Cowboys-Commanders instead of Seahawks-Cardinals. Obviously, Cowboys-Commanders is your number 1 crew on Fox. It's Kevin Burkhardt and Greg Olsen. I get that. But for Green Bay, the Seahawks game has way more meaning, way more implications than the Cowboys-Commanders game. If the Packers are losing, you're flipping over to the Seahawks game because that matters. The Cowboys game, simply put, does not matter for your playoff picture. And that's the most important thing at the end of the day. Now, are these maps final? No, they can change throughout the day. They can change throughout the week. We will see if the maps change. They usually do for a few markets, but I am very shocked by some of these markets. Baltimore getting Browns-Bengals when that game means nothing over a game that has meaning. I don't get that one. And then the biggest one, Green Bay getting Cowboys-Commanders, which does mean something, but not to the Packers in the same way that the Seahawks-Cardinals game does, where that has massive wildcard implications, unlike Cowboys-Commanders, where that means nothing in terms of the Packers and whether they can make the playoffs or not. But what are your thoughts on the maps? What are your thoughts on the matchups for Week 18? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like what you saw, be sure to like and subscribe. Helps the channel out a lot. If you like NFL history, join my main channel, Jaguar9, where we talk all things NFL all the time on there. Until next time, Jaguar9 signing off, and as always, go Jags.